greatest challenge is the climate change. We're 2 weeks away from Christmas and it's, what is it now, 14 degrees. It should be half that at the moment. Well, I'm a 6th generation farmer here in Horseman Den. So the main farm is actually down in Paddock Wood, and a lot of our fruit ground is up here in Horseman Den and Brenchley is where we are today. We are mainly apples and blackcurrants is what we grow, and some arable and some grass as well. So we're fairly mixed really. A proper family farm with my father and my son involved. We have roughly about 10 hectares of apples and about 45 hectares of blackcurrants and probably about 100 hectares of arable. This is our first time we've planted something different. This is Magic Star. This is a Magic Star orchard, so it's just going to extend our picking window a bit. It's a later picked apple, which will come after Gala, so should work well. And I think it stores quite well as well. That's one of our greatest challenges. Rainfall is another one. We don't have any irrigation. We never have done. I know a lot of farmers do, but it's a huge, huge expense, which we're not quite ready to do yet. But hopefully with the biochar, that's what some of the trials are about, and to see the different rates of growth on some of these trees. That could be very interesting to us.
My name is Matevz Papp-Rupar. Yeah. I'm a pathologist, researcher of all different things that have to do with apples, mainly apple diseases, also sustainable production, so making more food with less water input, with less fertilizer, and getting better quality out. It used to be 25 years, even 30 years you can push on old orchards. Now they're between 15 years, a quite good one. After 15 years they try to be they're pulled out, and then you get up to 20 maybe if they're very, very clean, very well managed. But then the yield declines and then they're not profitable anymore. So that's where the growers need to at some point take the hit and decide whether to pull the trees, wait 2 years and then plant another one, so they have a like 5-year gap. You kind of have a fruit wall. You have flowers kind of uniformly across. So you have to book your cold store, you have to book who you're going to sell it to, how much you're going to have, what is the likely quality going to be. That's all done sort of ahead of time before you actually pick. So uniformity is a huge driver in the modern orchards. So normally you have orchard after orchard after orchard with about a year or two fallow in between, and that's maximum you can afford. That is a particularly important point where you want to introduce things like biochar and microbes, because you get soil in a most easiest term, it's just get tired of apple. So you get what we call apple replant disease, where apple are being replanted the same position, and they change the microbes there, they change the soil structure. There's like 3 or 4 different pathogens that build up around where the apple was planted. So you pull an apple out, stick another one in, and that's going to grow much slower. It's much more likely to die, that tree, and it's going to produce less across the whole duration. So for replant orchard, this is even more important for when you're going from one to another. We've done that in other projects, but in this project we have a luxury really to just try in the almost virgin soil as far as apple is concerned. We're trying to add biochar to the soil, which is any wood or organic matter that has been converted into kind of charcoal in a very high amount of heat and minimum oxygen, and that is very porous material, so it can capture things like nutrients. It can make soil more aerated when you put it in. It stops nutrients from leaching out, and it provides little niches, little nooks and crannies for the microbes to live on. So you add biochar to improve your soil capacity to harbor good microbes. We go a step further and we add, in some treatments here we just have biochar, see if that's sufficient, and then in other we add biochar and mycorrhizal fungi. So these are beneficial fungi that connect trees with other trees or with grasses or just with other plants in the orchard, and they grow out from the tree into the soil, and they help the tree to get phosphorus, to access it and to transport it, and they get a little nitrogen from them as well. And there's been studies where they've shown that where the trees have a lot of mycorrhizal partners, they're less prone to drought stress, they're less susceptible to diseases. So all that is kind of every little bit that we're trying to do is adding one more step towards being more resilient. That's kind of the end goal, to have a very resilient trees, because the climate is changing. We want to use less water and fertilizer, so we can't spoil them like we were doing it for the last 50 years. Now they have to do it with microbes that are there and with nutrients that are there, and this is kind of putting it together. And then the last bit, we have a trichoderma, which is a different type of beneficial fungus that has been shown in our research and in other people's research that can help with plant diseases in particular. So it can either increase plant defenses or combat diseases in the soil directly by stopping other fungi from growing. When you give everything the tree needs at the beginning, then you don't get the random tree death in the first couple of years because of the poor conditions of the soil or poor conditions of the planting, or just tree was in poor condition brought in from the nursery. So we try to fix that, and then if the tree is less stressed, growing better, then you have less diseases year on year. So it kind of stacks from if you start and give it the best kind of microbiome, the best soil conditions at planting, then it stacks year on year, and you kind of reduce your yield penalties, you reduce your disease incidence, you reduce your management practice, because all the trees are even, all the trees are easier to pick. So that's kind of what we're trying to do. We're measuring all the trees now at the beginning, and then we're going to come every year to measure how much they grew, how much yield they produced. We're going to measure how much disease is on different plots, and because we have just randomly across every row we have blocks of 10 trees, then we can compare whether untreated trees are worse than biochar, and then at the end, by year 2, we should have some sort of recommendation for the growers saying this amount of biochar with this amount of fungi produced the best result. That's kind of the end goal, to have a very resilient trees, because the climate is changing. We want to use less water and fertilizer, so we can't spoil them like we were doing it for the last 50 years. Now they have to do it with microbes that are there and with nutrients that are there, and this is kind of putting it together.
It's great working with with these guys at East Malling, and because otherwise farming can be quite a lonely job, and getting other farmers involved and getting people down here to have a look is great. I love all that. That's great, and talking to other people and seeing how they've got on is fantastic, and that's the way hopefully going forward we can work together.